She essentially took a roller coaster ride.
Well, it was very profound. I don't know if you've seen Katy Perry talk about it, but she's basically a guru now.
You are not ready for how embarrassing this was. Imagine spending millions of dollars, getting handpicked by a billionaire's girlfriend, launching into space with the fanfare of a Super Bowl commercial, and still becoming the internet's biggest punchline in under 10 minutes. Katy Perry, Gail King, and a crew of celebrity elites boarded a rocket to empower women, only to come back and face an avalanche of memes, roasts, and straight-up public humiliation. This wasn't just a PR fail, it was a masterclass in how to take a luxury space joyride and accidentally make feminism look like a joke. What really happened on that all-female Blue Origin mission? Why did other celebrities turn on them? And how did a few selfies in zero gravity become one of the most mocked events of the year?
Let's not minimize this. Let's celebrate female astronauts.
That's the other thing. There has been female astronauts.
Let's not minimize this.
Stick around, because the deeper this goes, the more ridiculous it gets. Let's start with the moment that broke the internet, and not in a good way. The rocket lands, the capsule opens, and Katy Perry steps out like she just survived interstellar war. What does she do? She kisses the ground. No joke. She full-on drops to her knees and plants one on Mother Earth like she's Frodo returning from Mount Doom. Within minutes, clips of this hit social media and the roast began. People compared it to someone finishing a roller coaster and acting like they cured cancer. Because let's be real, they were only gone for 11 minutes. That's less time than it takes to get through an episode recap on Netflix.
Lots of other people in the media were embarrassing themselves during this ordeal. Oprah Winfrey actually wept as she watched the all-female team launch into space.
Yet the media couldn't stop fawning. Articles called it moving, profound, symbolic, but to everyone else, it was peak delusion. She took a very expensive elevator ride into the sky and came back thinking she's the new face of human evolution. And that's just the beginning. You know things have gone off the rails when even Oprah's crying. That's right, Oprah Winfrey reportedly wept as she watched the launch. She wasn't alone either. Networks and influencers were out here acting like this flight was the second coming of Apollo 11. News anchors were tossing around phrases like a leap for womankind while ignoring the glaring reality. This was space tourism, a glorified influencer getaway in a rocket funded by Jeff Bezos.
And real astronauts are extremely intelligent scientists who've been tested to the limits of their physical and mental fitness. But this was really not women in space. It was stupid people in space. This was the lowest IQ space crew that has ever been launched from Earth.
But because it was an all-female crew, suddenly it became historic. The empowerment narrative got dialed up to 100. But here's the kicker. No one involved had to train like a real astronaut. No one was piloting. The spacecraft was 100% automated. Their biggest challenge was probably not wrinkling their designer jumpsuits. And yet, somehow, it was being sold as some kind of divine gift to humanity. One small step for women. One giant leap into a PR disaster. And then came the celebrity backlash, which almost never happens. Usually, Hollywood circles the wagons, but not this time. Olivia Wilde reposted the clip of Katy Perry kissing the ground, mocking it like she just landed from Mars. Amy Schumer jumped in too, joking she was added to the crew last minute while on the subway.
They're treating her like she was in Nam. Where are my babies? My babies, like she was almost dead. Here's Katy Perry. Kisses the ground. Right. You were in such danger.
Martha Stewart? She took it next level, posted a throwback video of herself in a zero-gravity flight with a cheeky Katy Perry lyric attached. That wasn't just shade, that was a full eclipse. And when Martha Stewart, a woman who once went to prison and came out more powerful, is roasting you from orbit, you know you messed up. Suddenly, what was supposed to be a celebration of sisterhood started looking like an exclusive influencer trip nobody asked for. Because here's the truth. If this had been any other group of women without fame, clout, or Bezos in their DMs, no one would have cared. Now, let's talk about the most unintentionally hilarious meltdown of the entire thing, Gail King's post-flight rage. When people online started calling the flight a ride, she went off. "Don't call it a ride, that was a journey," she snapped. She claimed the term ride was sexist, said it belittled women, and demanded that everyone refer to it as a mission. But ma'am, You sat in a chair, strapped in, got autopiloted into the sky, floated around for 3 minutes, and came back. You didn't storm Normandy. You didn't even control the vessel. It's literally the definition of a ride. But that didn't stop Gail from turning on the waterworks. According to her, they were making space, not taking up space.
The celebrities like Katy Perry, who were sent on the stunning and brave girl boss mission into outer space for Blue Origin, are now having complete and total meltdowns over the backlash that they've been receiving for the past 48 hours in response.
Which is ironic, because the only space they actually made was in our cringe memory banks. She claimed they were inspiring young girls everywhere, but honestly, the only thing this inspired was 1,000 memes. By this point, the internet had had enough. The backlash wasn't just about how corny everything looked, it was about the disconnect. These were ultra-rich celebrities, flying in a billionaire's rocket, trying to pretend they were pioneers. Meanwhile, regular people are out here struggling to buy groceries, and these women are floating in zero gravity talking about how connected to love they feel. Lauren Sanchez, Bezos' fiancée, even got emotional and said the experience was alive and quiet, like she had unlocked some cosmic secret. Katy Perry said she'll never be the same. After 11 minutes in the air, these weren't astronauts, they were influencers cosplaying as explorers. And the worst part? They thought we'd all be clapping. But all we saw was a billionaire-funded PR stunt with designer jumpsuits and performative empowerment vibes so thick you could choke on them. Let's be real.
She too. Okay, kisses the ground. Somebody already, you should be kissing Oprah. Oprah's there. Kiss Oprah. She's worth far more to you than the ground. Thank you, Jesus. Truly, it's like they're right back from Nam.
What did they actually do in space? According to reports, their training lasted a grand total of 2 days. Not months, not even a week. 2 days. Most of that was learning how to get in and out of the capsule and how to buckle their seatbelts. That's it. They weren't conducting research. They weren't testing new tech. They weren't even piloting anything. Everything was handled remotely. This wasn't exploration. This was a photo shoot with a skybox. Meanwhile, Katy Perry's biggest takeaway from the trip? She might finally get her ears pierced. No, seriously. She said space gave her the courage to do something she's never done before, get her ears pierced. And if that doesn't sum up how deeply unserious this mission was, nothing will. If the goal was to inspire the internet, congratulations. Just not in the way they hoped. Because the memes? Ruthless. Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, they lit up like someone launched a comedy nuke. People edited clips of Katy Perry floating through space, with the caption, "Me after surviving an awkward Zoom call." Others stitched her space selfie with day 3 of not being able to afford rent. The phrase, "the only thing orbiting was their egos," basically became a rallying cry. And every time one of the ladies tried to post something serious about their experience, the comments were flooded with clown emojis and gifs of astronauts actually doing real work in space. It got to the point where no one was talking about the historic part anymore.
Wendy posted, Wendy's, the fast food chain. Yeah. Can we send her back?
Oh!
Now Wendy's is refusing to apologize for the post, despite the backlash.
They were too busy dunking on how disconnected from reality this all looked, like they took space travel and turned it into a Coachella after-party. But the most unhinged part of this saga, they started calling themselves astronauts. And not even jokingly, like genuinely using the term in interviews. Gail King said it with her whole chest. She compared their mission to Alan Shepard's. Alan, freaking Shepard, the first American in space who trained like his life depended on it. Because it did. These women spent 2 days learning how to buckle up and float. One of them brought a daisy to represent Mother Earth. Another said it made her feel more connected to the divine feminine. That's not science. That's an astrology retreat with extra steps. And let's not forget, every button was pressed from the ground. They had zero control. If anything went wrong, they weren't trained to do anything. So the idea that this was a space mission led by pioneering women, it's giving delusion. It's giving cosplay.
What did they do?
That was one small step for womankind, one giant leap backwards for mankind, as far as I can see.
It's giving, I once rode Soarin' at Disneyland, therefore I'm a pilot. There used to be a time when going to space meant something. It was dangerous. It was groundbreaking. It pushed the boundaries of what humanity could do. Now, it's basically a status symbol. A rich girl spa day, except instead of cucumber water and hot stones, it's champagne and zero gravity. Jeff Bezos took what used to be the pinnacle of human ambition and turned it into a punchline. And by the way, none of this would have happened if these women weren't famous or dating someone rich. Let's call it what it is: a billionaire. Disneyland ride sponsored by Amazon Prime, dressed up in the language of empowerment to distract from how painfully shallow it actually was. The average woman doesn't see this and feel inspired. She sees it and rolls her eyes. Because unless you're an A-list celebrity with friends in high places, this historic opportunity is less about lifting women up and more about lifting Instagram engagement. There was one line that really said it all. One of the women, it might have been Gail or Lauren, proudly declared, "We weren't just taking up space, we were making space."
An all-female Blue Origin space crew with celebrities including Katy Perry, Lauren Sanchez, and Gail King has been hilariously mocked after it returned to Earth following an 11-minute trip into the Earth's atmosphere.
And in that moment, you could hear a collective eye roll from the entire internet. Because girl, no, you weren't making space. You were posting thirst traps in a billion-dollar tin can. What exactly did you make? You didn't open the door for other women. You didn't blaze a trail. You got handpicked for PR optics. And let's be honest, the people who are truly making space more inclusive, they're engineers, scientists, women building rovers, launching telescopes, running simulation, not singing "What a Wonderful World" while floating next to Jeff Bezos' fiancée. There's nothing revolutionary about a sponsored space vacation. It was just narcissism, but with a better view. But here's the tragic comedy of it all. They thought this would be their legacy. They genuinely believed that this trip would be remembered as a historic moment for women. But in reality, it's going down in history for an entirely different reason, as a masterclass in how not to brand a spaceflight. Instead of showing strength, it showed vanity. Instead of sparking inspiration, it sparked memes. And instead of breaking boundaries, it made space feel smaller, more exclusive, more elitist. Because the message wasn't, "Look how far women have come." It was, "Look how rich and connected we are." And let's be real, if the bar for progress is whether you can afford a seat on a billionaire's pet project, that's not empowerment.
Katy Perry jumped out of the aircraft and kissed the ground in a painfully cringe moment that has been roasted online.
That's just privilege with a side of delusion. So next time someone tries to convince you that Katy Perry kissing the earth is a feminist milestone, remember this: real empowerment doesn't come from riding in a rocket you didn't build, control, or understand. It comes from doing the hard work, breaking actual barriers, and not needing a camera crew every time you do something mildly impressive. The internet saw through this entire charade, and so did we. Because at the end of the day, you can float through space all you want. But if the only thing you bring back is a flower and a selfie, you're not making history. You're just making content.